My husband John drowned unexpectedly. While sorting through his belongings, I discovered a photocopied property deed tucked inside a magazine. When I entered that house, I was stunned speechless. The interior boasted cozy, romantic decor with expensive furniture, beautiful carpets, and dust-covered crystal chandeliers that still glittered brilliantly. It stood in stark contrast to the shabby, cramped old home we'd shared. The walls displayed family photos of John with his first love Emily and their twin children. On the desk lay a hastily scrawled suicide note, "Emily, since your death from illness, every day has been hell. Now that I've fulfilled my filial duties and our children are established, I have nothing left. I pray we reunite in the afterlife." I staggered out of the room, consumed by the urge to dig up his grave. Overcome with rage, I vomited blood before collapsing. When I awoke, I found myself transported back to the 10th year of my marriage. The police called while I was working late, grinding through last-minute client revisions at 40 years old. My hormones unbalanced as I hunched over documents like a draft animal. Their news about John's body being found at West Mountain Reservoir initially struck me as a scam. I snapped. "Screw off. Scammers should die." The officer calmly recited his badge number, explaining night fishermen had discovered the body with John's ID during the 40-minute drive to the reservoir. My repeated calls to John went unanswered. Under ink-black skies, the rushing water and eerie animal cries raised goosebumps. I stumbled toward distant flashlight beams, where I found a rigid corpse in a stained white shirt and black slacks, barefoot, lacerated, with blood trailing from every orifice. The face froze me in place, unmistakably John. Investigators ruled out foul play. The autopsy detected alcohol, concluding accidental drowning. Our children Jane and James flew back from abroad after multiple hypertension-induced hospitalizations. They handled the funeral arrangements. At the cemetery, I gaped at the shared tombstone bearing John and Emily's names, divorced for over 2 decades. Jane stated coldly, "It was Dad's wish." Producing his will, the document mandated burial with Emily and designated the twins as sole beneficiaries for his insurance, pre-marital investments, and stocks. "Regarding our marital home, you'll keep your half, but must buy out our share at market rate. Alternatively, sell and split proceeds." James avoided eye contact, murmuring, "Jane and I got our green cards. After this, we won't return. Take care of yourself, Mom." I stared in disbelief at the 2 children I'd raised for 20 years, tears streaming down my face without my notice. My throat burned with unshed sobs, my voice reduced to a broken rasp. "How could you do this to me?" I'd been married to John for 2 decades, became stepmother to 5-year-old twins James and Jane, loved my husband through every storm, cared for his children as my own, honored his parents with unwavering devotion. Yet they'd schemed to strip me bare. Stumbling into our dilapidated home, the same cramped 80-square-meter apartment we'd bought with my dowry 20 years ago. 30-year-old walls that once housed 5 people, including my mother-in-law. Countless sacrifices made James and Jane's overseas education. Dialysis treatments for the Wilson family matriarch. Always telling myself it'll get better. Now I saw the truth, I'd been their pawn all along. Mechanically sorting through John's belongings, I froze when discovering a yellowed property deed beneath his sweaters. John listed as owner. The locksmith checked my ID before opening the upscale apartment's door. My knees buckled at the sight, John and Emily's secret love nest. Walls adorned with family photos of their perfect 4 traveling the world, all the places I'd dreamed of but could never afford. A master suite with walk-in closets and luxury bedding, adjacent to John's study, documenting their children's achievements from elementary school through college. On the desk lay his suicide note, "Emily, since your passing 2 years ago, every day has been hell. Now that my duty to our children is fulfilled and they're thriving, I come to join you in eternity. Not accidental drowning after drinking. A lover's suicide pact." I shredded the paper with hysterical laughter, rising on unsteady legs. I vowed to dig up John's grave. Then blood filled my mouth as rage overwhelmed me. Darkness swallowed my vision. When I awoke, I sat at a banquet table overflowing with delicacies, surrounded by cheerful chatter. It took several dazed moments to recognize this scene, the celebration dinner after James and Jane's middle school graduation, when they'd earned full scholarships to the city's best high school with $6,000 stipends each. At that moment, John was making rounds with James and Jane, toasting relatives and friends. Guests praised the university professor for raising such accomplished offspring. Emily sat beside her mother-in-law, beaming at the trio with visible pride. I drained my glass of red wine, the bitter chill confirming this wasn't some nightmare. A sneering voice pierced my thoughts. Aren't you the lucky one? Even with your ruined reputation, you managed to snag John. No womb, no childbirth, yet you get ready-made perfect children. Some people have all the luck. The venom came from Amanda, John's philosophy department colleague and former junior. Her theatrical delivery drew stares, including Emily's amused smirk. Amanda continued loudly. Remember when your father had to bribe men with apartments to take you? Who'd guess our distinguished professor would pick damaged goods like you? I almost pitied the jealousy twisting her features. Everyone knew Amanda's decade-long crush on John. How Emily's pregnancy had shattered their friendship. How Amanda's rushed marriage coincided with Emily abandoning her family. Her barbs about my assault history and hysterectomy used to shame me into silence. Not today. Slamming my chopsticks, I retorted, jealous I married John? Want me to surrender my place? Maybe then you'll stop obsessing over someone else's husband and quit bringing up ancient history. Amanda blanched, glancing at her stone-faced husband. You're insane, she hissed. Insane? I laughed coldly. Those flirty texts you send John? The bedroom eyes? Constantly dragging up my trauma? You think I don't see your games? The banquet hall froze as I continued. Yes. I survived assault. Lost my uterus. Yet John chose me. Take your bitterness to him if it burns so much. John stormed over, grip tightening on my arm. Must you air dirty laundry today? He growled. I shook him off. Why scold me? She starts this every time. Amanda's husband materialized, hauling her up. Emergency at the office. He lied stiffly, dragging his spluttering wife toward the exit. As whispers swelled, Emily glided to John's side. Must you embarrass everyone? She cooed, all honeyed concern. Think of James and Jane's reputation at school. However proud you are of surviving certain experiences, must we all endure the vulgar details? Following her gaze, I saw James trembling nearby, knuckles white, eyes bloodshot. Tears welled up in Jane's eyes as she glared at me with undisguised loathing. The memory of them pressuring me at the cemetery with John's will, demanding I sell the house immediately to split the proceeds, made me snort derisively. Their biological mother isn't dead yet. What makes me qualified to be their mother? Let's discuss this after their real mother kicks the bucket. You, Emily choked, her fair face flushing crimson as she looked pleadingly at John with tearful eyes. A flicker of ruthlessness passed through John's gaze before he seized my arm with bone-crushing force. Wen, enough. Stop embarrassing everyone. Save your tantrums for home. He hissed through clenched teeth. I stared at this man I'd once loved, corrosive hatred rising in my throat. A friend hurried over to mediate. Professor Wilson. Come. We need your parenting advice. My son keeps failing exams. How do you communicate with your children? The banquet hall soon buzzed with activity again as I sat nursing my wine, the bitter vintage doing nothing to ease the ache in my chest. The truth crystallized as I drained another glass. I should divorce John and escape this viper's nest. But after decades of deception, could I simply walk away from vengeance? When the last guest departed, John's mother turned on me with her trademark rasp. Must you humiliate us? Your barrenness and that sordid assault history, I wouldn't have accepted you even as a virgin. You're trash unworthy of my son. Mom. John snapped. I studied this robust woman who'd soon develop kidney failure, the same woman I'd chauffeur to dialysis for 8 years in my previous life. Your filial duty fulfilled suicide note? I sneered at John. Those were my sacrifices. Turning to his mother, I unleashed decades of bitterness. Your son's tenure? My father's connections. Without my hysterectomy, I'd never have settled for this fraud. The room froze. Don't play the whore, then demand respect. Amanda's name sparked fresh outrage. You're insane over minor criticism. John shouted. Jane wailed. Why ruin my celebration with your assault stories? Your social life isn't my concern. I retorted. I should be ashamed of your squat, pig-nosed face embarrassing me at work. The genetic lottery had cursed Jane with her grandmother's unfortunate features, unlike her twin James' handsome resemblance to their birth mother. As Jane fled wailing, I grabbed my purse. The humid summer night clung to my skin like the past I'd finally shed. I kicked a pebble down the street, my mind tangled in chaos. Memories of what happened to me resurfaced, drowning me in suffocating despair. I'd been assaulted. During my senior year internship, someone followed me after night shift and dragged me into a dark alley. Public safety was far worse back then, with countless surveillance, blind alleys. When his hand clamped over my mouth, I fought like hell. During the struggle, I kneed him viciously in the groin. The counterattack enraged him. He slammed me onto concrete. But after 2 failed attempts at rape, he yanked up his pants cursing, kicking my abdomen repeatedly before dumping me by a trash bin like discarded rags. My parents searched all night. At the hospital, when doctors explained my shattered uterus and bladder required emergency hysterectomy to save my life, my mother collapsed. My father's hair turned salt and pepper overnight. The attacker got 10 years. But my scars remained. I wore a catheter for 3 months and endured 12 months of therapy to barely function again. Since then, I've carried shame, hypervigilance, and self-loathing, convinced I deserved no love. Until John. He'd been my sunlight in endless night, my lighthouse in stormy seas. I poured everything into our marriage despite his mother's cruelty and stepchildren's hostility. Nurtured by their grandmother and biological mother's poison, I cherished what we had, never imagining he was Satan cloaked in radiance, the hidden hand dragging me to hell. He obliterated me, twisting past sweetness into daggers through his schemes. The apartment stood dark near midnight, presumably everyone asleep. A rustling noise from the balcony pierced the silence. Flipping lights on, I found a bamboo basket wrapped in mesh, the sound source. Goosebumps erupted. That basket held venomous snakes. Last life. After James and Jane's high school entrance exam results, Mrs. Wilson credited Buddha answered her prayers. She'd obtained a dozen venomous snakes for mountain merit release. I'd argued for releasing carp instead, but she insisted merit animals couldn't be eaten later, though she'd never eat snakes. Stealing the basket at dawn, I took it to wildlife rescue. Workers paled upon opening it, all lethal banded krites. As China's Class II protected species, they called police. I endured an hour's reprimand and signed anti-trafficking pledges before release. Mrs. Wilson raged about ruined spiritual cultivation. Now, I walked away. Next morning, Mrs. Wilson barked at John while unpacking breakfast. Wake James and Jane. We're releasing Merritt after eating. John massaged his temples. Mom, stop indoctrinating them with superstitions. She glared. My Buddha prayers got you through college. Those exam scores? My merit. He gave up arguing. Frowning, I turned to knock on James and Jane's doors. After the children finished washing up and sat at the dining table, my mother-in-law finally distributed breakfast from paper bags to everyone except me. Unbothered, I retrieved my pre-prepared ID card, marriage certificate, and household register before slamming the door behind me. I hailed a taxi straight to the real estate bureau. As expected, John's name appeared on the deed of a 476 SQ foot property registered 3 years ago, coinciding with Emily's return from abroad. The mortgage had been cleared 2 months prior, likely through accelerated payments. I obtained an official stamped inquiry report from the clerk. During the cab ride to my office, I pondered, how could someone as meticulous as John leave such glaring evidence? Last lifetime. I'd only seen photocopied deeds. He'd even designated only his children as insurance beneficiaries while scheming to claim properties I'd financed. No way he'd let me claim half of this $8 to $10 million asset. The office landline rang immediately after our morning briefing. James' panicked sobs exploded through the speaker of Mom. Come quick. Grandma got bitten by venomous snakes during her prayer release ritual. She's unconscious near South Ridge's halfway point, you know, that giant boulder from our picnic. Dad's not answering. The snakes, they're everywhere. Ah. Stay back. My hand instinctively reached for my phone to dial 911. Then froze mid-air. If Buddha protected her grandchildren through college admissions, surely divine intervention would spare them now. James. I calmly responded. Mom's out of town. Call your father or emergency services. 3 seconds of silence. But I called your office landline. Right. My cab's waiting downstairs. Can't talk now. I hung up and powered off my phone. The Russell's vipers struck repeatedly, multiple bites on my mother-in-law. 2 on James' left calf. Jane escaped unharmed due to menstrual cramps keeping her home. Rescuers took 3 hours to locate them in the mountainous terrain. Both survived. But the venom wrought havoc. Grandma developed full body tremors, blackened necrotic wounds, and doctors warned of progressive muscle necrosis. James suffered leg paralysis, neurological impairment, and irreversible organ damage, catastrophic for an incoming high school freshman. I arrived at the hospital 3 days later, maintaining my business trip charade. John's enraged roar greeted me the moment I stepped into the ward. Where have you been these past few days? Why couldn't I reach you no matter how many times I called? When James got bitten by a snake and tried contacting you, why didn't you go rescue them immediately? If you'd brought medical help sooner, they could have gotten the antivenom right away and avoided getting this serious. I glanced at the 2 figures lying in hospital beds, one semi-conscious, the other staring vacantly at the ceiling. My voice trembled with hurt. The company sent me on an emergency business trip. My phone got stolen right after I arrived. How was I supposed to know something happened at home? Turning the tables, I demanded. Wait. I specifically told James to contact you immediately. Didn't you go help them? What kind of father does that make you? John froze, his earlier aggression deflating. I pressed on angrily. One's your biological mother and the other's your own son. How could you be so heartless? And now you're trying to blame me? Tell me then, what were you doing that was more important than saving your family? A flicker of guilt crossed his eyes as his tone softened. I'm not blaming you. I was just worried sick when you disappeared for 3 days. Enough. What's done is done. He straightened his tie. You stay here with Mom and James. I need to go home and change. I crossed my arms. No. I have urgent work matters. We'll hire professional caregivers. His jaw clenched audibly, but he finally nodded. James left the hospital before his grandmother. The snakebite left him with PTSD, night terrors, panic attacks at rustling leaves, avoidance of any greenery. Watching him deteriorate twisted my heart. I'd genuinely loved those siblings as my own. As for his current state, well, maybe his grandmother's Buddha statues forgot to protect him. When mid-July brought high school registration, James' condition made enrollment impossible. The school readily approved his medical leave given his stellar entrance exam scores. His choked sobs when I handed him the deferral papers suggested he understood this temporary reprieve wouldn't save his academic future. My silent sigh echoed through the sterile room. This was the last kindness I could offer. I listed our aging home with a realtor. The decent school district should fetch $500, $600K. Though I'd pre-arranged a $300,000 buyer. The day before his mother's discharge, I checked into the same hospital. John turned crimson when I requested surgery deposits. You're hospitalizing yourself now? Who'll care for Mom? Waving the doctor's note, I explained the lung nodule pressing on my airway required immediate removal. Truthfully, it was small. Last life I'd waited 3 months. Now I accelerated the timeline. After multiple audible breaths to contain his rage, John maintained his doting husband act and handed over the credit card. My college-aged cousin kept vigil during recovery. On the second postoperative afternoon, while my cousin fetched lunch, John produced documents demanding signatures. Weak from fasting, I squinted at the pages as he insisted. Just annual insurance policies, $100, $200 each. Helping a friend's new brokerage career. Sign here. His phone camera activated as he offered a pen. The door clicked open, my cousin returning for her forgotten phone. Seeing John urging me to sign, Amanda looked surprised. Brother-in-law. What's so urgent that you need my sister to sign right now? Can't you see she's still weak and dizzy? Let me check the documents first. She reached for the papers. John quickly stuffed everything into his briefcase, forcing a smile. How thoughtless of me. Jane just had surgery. I was only trying to help a friend meet insurance quotas. We'll handle this after she recovers. My cousin eyed him suspiciously. You're not slipping some loan agreement into the mix, are you? The casual remark made John's face darken. He snapped unexpectedly. Watch your mouth. Is this how college students behave nowadays? Before hastily exiting the room, I handed Amanda her phone from the nightstand. Don't mind him. Go grab breakfast. She left fuming. The next morning during rounds, my doctor recommended light walking. Amanda borrowed a wheelchair. Let's enjoy the garden breeze, she suggested. After strolling for 15 minutes near the artificial rockery, we settled on a shaded bench. A familiar voice carried through the foliage. I said I'd come tonight. Why are you here? Turning slightly, I saw John holding a thermos with one arm around Emily's waist. His expression fondly exasperated. I pressed a finger to my lips, signaling Amanda to stay quiet as Emily pouted. I hate that you spent hours making soup for her. John chuckled. You're 40. Not 14. Who cooks for you every time? I need her functional to care for my bedridden mother and kids. Want me to divorce her? Just say the word. Emily snorted. Why would I? She's funding our kids' education and handling your cranky mom better than any paid caretaker. That free ride works perfectly. Her tone sharpened. Did you get the property transfer papers signed yesterday? Her nosy cousin interfered. John grumbled. Legally, we could proceed without her signature, but it's riskier if contested. I'll try again. After taking a sip from the thermos, Emily gagged. Bland and greasy. Perfect for your recovering wife. John wiped her mouth tenderly. The broth's salt-free per her diet. I'll make yours richer tonight. As the couple walked off arm in arm, Amanda trembled violently beside me, tears streaking her face. I'll kill those bastards, she choked out. I patted her hand. Death would be merciful. I wanted them to live through their consequences. Returning home, I discovered John had temporarily moved his mother to a nursing home, waiting to dump her back on me after my recovery. What a devoted son he is. The realtor called as I unpacked. A buyer had emerged for the house. When John found out I was selling the house, he was horrified. Have you lost your mind? Where will we live if we sell our home? I smiled calmly. I'm planning to upgrade to a larger place. Our family's been too cramped here. His brows furrowed. How can we afford that? Between my mother's medical bills and James' physical therapy sessions, every penny counts. This house may be older, but the location's perfect, walking distance to the hospital. My gaze turned pointed. I don't have the funds. But you certainly do. After becoming a full professor with that $200,000 annual salary. And me covering all household expenses these years. Don't tell me you're broke. John shifted uncomfortably. My money's tied up in stocks and mutual funds. It's not liquid right now. Seizing the opening, I pressed, since you claim all your assets are investments, I'll need full disclosure. Those are marital assets. I'll be verifying the amounts against your income records. He paled. Of course he couldn't comply. His real estate purchases for Emily would expose everything. I summoned our lawyer for notarization, demanding John certify all his investments as joint property. The pen trembled in his hand. Winnie, don't you trust me? He challenged. I maintained my calm. If these are legitimate salary investments, this is just formality. Unless there's something you're hiding? Absolutely not. Then sign. When he still hesitated, I turned to our attorney. How would I legally trace hidden asset transfers? John's pen clattered to the floor as the lawyer explained. We'd file for a discovery order to examine all financial accounts, including, before he finished. John thrust the signed document at me. Fingerprints still wet. I smiled. Having the lawyer video record the notarization. Better to sacrifice half his investments than expose the apartment and monthly transfers to Emily. The house sold weeks later for $300,000 to my predetermined buyer. John demanded verification from the agent, who patiently explained, the new school campuses will relocate in 3 years, turning this into urban blight. When John tried backing out, the agent produced our contract, 20% penalty for breach. I played peacemaker. A neighbor's larger unit only got $380,000. Let's take Dad's $500,000 down payment help and move. John relented at mention of my father's contribution. The funds cleared. I immediately dumped the entire amount into a rigged market play, long positions against my associates' shorts. This money was meant to vanish. Moving day arrived. James trailed me anxiously, mortification flooding his face when our destination became clear. Emily's luxury penthouse. You must know this place well, I remarked, watching him flush crimson. No answer came from behind the new locks. I called police, then a locksmith, presenting property deeds to officers. Squatters illegally occupied my home. The door swung open under official supervision. When Emily appeared carrying shopping bags, the movers had already finished. She threw her things at me. Get out. John bought this house for me. What's it to you? I waved our marriage certificate. This is marital property between me and John. You're the one leaving. Police confirmed the house under John's name was jointly owned, ordering Emily to vacate immediately. If I pressed charges, she'd face financial penalties. Emily stood frozen, tearfully calling John. I smirked. John was now in hot water himself. 2 days prior, I'd mailed evidence of their affair from my private investigator to his university's disciplinary committee and education authorities. He was likely being investigated as we spoke. John discovered the situation after work. Instead of confronting me, he knelt begging forgiveness, claiming he'd only lent Emily the house temporarily and feared I'd misunderstand. After his pathetic excuses, he pleaded for me to ask my father to pull strings covering up his misconduct, or his career would be ruined. He promised to cut ties with Emily completely. I stared down in silence. Misconduct? A bigger storm was coming. Using the excuse of convincing my father, I moved back to my parents, mainly fearing his potential violent outbursts when everything collapsed. Weeks earlier, I'd found John's old computer, spending $200 to repair it. I uncovered evidence of plagiarism in his doctoral thesis published years prior. Nearly 30% was translated from foreign research papers he'd kept on that same device. I submitted everything to the journal. They swiftly retracted his paper, banned future submissions, and forwarded evidence to his university. The school launched investigations. Then came the bombshell. Amanda filed a real name report exposing John's theft of her research, selling co-authorships, and embezzling grant funds. Later I learned why she turned, after our graduation dinner. Her husband demanded divorce amid rumors. Drunk and devastated, Amanda witnessed John kissing Emily at a bar. When she attacked Emily, John publicly slapped her. Realizing she'd been played for years, willingly giving her research to this fraud, Amanda retaliated with a report. With momentum building, I sued John for bigamy and hidden marital assets. He dodged 2 court dates with excuses, delaying proceedings. Jane called demanding allowance. How many texts do I have to send? You ignoring me on purpose? I hung up and blocked her everywhere. After 2 months, John lost his professorship. The university revoked all positions and terminated his contract for academic fraud and misconduct. The embezzled funds and allowances must be fully reimbursed. The day after John was dismissed, I received a call from the rehabilitation center informing me that my mother-in-law had suddenly suffered respiratory failure and passed away before emergency services could arrive. When I relayed the news to John, prolonged silence filled the other end of the line. I excused myself from attending her funeral citing health reasons. From that moment, all matters concerning the Wilson family became irrelevant to me. That evening while working late, police notified me John had fallen into West Mountain Reservoir. Night fishermen rescued him, and paramedics rushed him to City General Hospital. Though stabilized, John's leg infection from prolonged submersion required immediate intervention. The physician presented 3 treatment options. Before explanations began, I cut to the chase: which option costs least? The most economical solution would be amputation. But, amputate then? The doctor hesitated. Vascular anastomosis or transplantation could preserve the limb. He's under 40. Just remove it. I can't afford fancy procedures. Where's the consent form? My pen scratched across the document without hesitation. Let's be real, we remained legally married, meaning I'd shoulder half his medical bills. Cost efficiency dictated my choice. Post-surgery, John drifted in mental fog, disoriented about timelines. Using his phone, I dialed Emily. He stared incredulously until her tearful voice crackled through. John, where've you been? Jane's teacher says she's dating and neglecting studies. Jane's mental health is deteriorating too. What should I do? John trembled violently. Emily? You're alive? But, pancreatic cancer 2 years ago. He searched my face for confirmation through tears. Are you insane? I'm perfectly healthy, Emily retorted. Your mother took James' snake releasing in the mountains and he got bitten. John jerked upright, then froze upon discovering his missing leg. His expression cycled through shock, denial, and horror before collapsing back with anguished roars echoing through the ward. He continued boycotting divorce proceedings, but the judge ruled via default hearing given overwhelming evidence. As the at-fault party, John received 40% of assets. Both children's custody went to him, with court ordering Emily to return all improperly transferred assets. The final settlement left me our house, fortunately purchased pre-boom at $700 per square foot rather than the future $3,000 plus rates, while John kept investments, vehicles, and funds spent on Emily. Free from that toxic circus, I embraced nomadic freedom, quitting my job, buying an RV to travel while vlogging. Unexpectedly, my travel content gained massive following and monetization opportunities, launching my blogging career. 2 years later over dinner, friends mentioned John's meltdown at Emily's engagement party. He'd trashed venue decorations before police intervened. Fines and 15 days administrative detention followed. Emily pressed charges. Last I heard, he's confined to psychiatric evaluation after multiple public outbursts. My only regret? Not amputating sooner. After the incident, John started drinking heavily every day, letting himself deteriorate beyond recognition. Jane dropped out of high school. Since John and Emily often forgot to send her living expenses, she later moved in with a wealthy classmate. What began as an attempt to secure financial support accidentally led to pregnancy. Jane was expelled from school. John, already physically weakened, confronted the wealthy family but was instead framed. They claimed Jane had propositioned him first. Eventually, the family paid $60,000 to hush up the scandal. The privileged heir walked away unscathed and continued his studies, while that money effectively destroyed Jane's bright future. Hearing this filled me with sorrow. Remembering my own past, I sighed softly. A girl's path always seems steeper. Years later, Emily developed pancreatic cancer again. Her fiancé left immediately upon learning the diagnosis. When she turned to John for help, the man had vanished without a trace. No one knew where he'd gone. Time passed. I stopped traveling obsessively and bought a villa before prices skyrocketed. Now I keep a cat and dog, with a garden full of blooms. One evening while walking my dog near the neighborhood park, A trembling voice called out behind me, "Mom." I turned to see James limping slightly on his left foot, wearing steel blue work clothes labeled "Waiting Machinery." His eyes reddened with emotion. Startled, I gently corrected. "I'm not your mother anymore. You can call me Auntie." He shuddered as tears fell. His own puppy straining against the leash. Snowball's being naughty, probably wants to explore. I told James with an apologetic smile. "Feel free to visit sometime." Walking away, my vision blurred. Suddenly I glimpsed them, the timid little girl and wide-eyed boy from over a decade ago, staring up at me curiously. "Who are you?" the boy had asked. "Why are you here?" "I'm your mom." Their eyes lit up as they rushed into my arms, cheering. "We have a mom too. I'll tell everyone at preschool I have the prettiest mom." How did we ever become strangers?